Welcome back to Talk Nerdy to Me, an entrepreneur's financial guide. We're now in season 2, episode 2, and we have a Tampa legend with us today. Oh, I've already made him uncomfortable. His name is Todd Hall, and you're the founder and CEO of what?
TalentCloud Staffing.
Stop it. And then also a partner in another firm?
A+ Solutions.
Okay, so I'll embarrass him. I've known Todd Hall for over 20 years. We met back in 2004 when I was just a scrappy little baby.
Right out of school.
Right out of college, yes. Yep. And we worked together and stayed in touch throughout the years. And you have always been such an incredible ally and such a wonderful, wonderful partner to work with.
Thank you.
As you move up in the accounting and finance world and it's time to start hiring people, you really do quickly discern who the right partners are who are able to bring the right level of talent to the table and really understand your needs and culture. But I would love it if you would take a minute to introduce yourself, and please don't spare any of the gory details. Go ahead and do some bragging. Started a company, sold a company, chairman of this, leadership that, beautiful family, all the things, and go.
Thank you. Wow. Fortunate. I've had a great career. I'm having a great career. I'm having a great time. I started my corporate career at the Walt Disney Company, and I feel like the Walt Disney Company gave me my corporate polish. I learned about politics, promotion, taking on projects. I think in the 6 years that I was there, I worked all the different parks. Just a great experience. And then from there, I transitioned into Fendi eyewear.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Did you have a stage name?
I did not.
I had a stage name when I worked for Disney.
No,
it was Madonna.
Madonna.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! But it's so crazy. I met my wife there. We dated a long time ago, and the timing wasn't right with where we were at in our lives, and we reconnected later down the road. But after the Disney experience, I worked for Fendi Eyewear. A great international brand based out of Italy. Met the Fendi sisters, traveled the country, fashion shows. Called on optical clinics all across the state of Florida. It was a great experience.
This explains a lot. So he said Fendi. If you could see the whole look that he has today, you would completely understand. It all makes sense. Very, very dapper.
Thank you. So Fendi eyewear, and then there was a lot of travel. I was younger. I wanted to kind of put roots down in a certain area. I got relocated to the Tampa market, and I started. I got into a staffing company.
Okay.
Boutique IT staffing. 4 years, great experience. Realized in order for me to get to the next level, I needed to go to a large national company.
Sure.
So I transitioned over to Robert Half. Great experience. They showed me how to run the business. So I thought that I was a good salesperson, a good recruiter, good at the business, but I realized I didn't, you don't know what you don't know. And Robert Half really polished me up as far as my corporate experience in the staffing industry. And then from there, I had this epiphany one day. I'm doing all this work, making the matches, getting the clients, managing the team, hiring people. And I just decided that it was time for me to embark on my own journey and do this for myself.
And when was that?
That was 2003.
Oh my gosh.
I know, a long time. It seems like a long time ago. But it seems like yesterday as well. That's how fun of a journey it's been. And then to brag on you, I met you, I think in 2004, like you said. I think I helped you find your first job or your second job, if I remember correctly. Been fortunate with you and many other people to watch the journey of growth. Right out of school, staff accountant, working their way up to CFO, getting your CPA along the way. I'm just super impressed with your grit and your drive. And, I remember many of our conversations, hey, if I did this, what would that lead to? And you've always had this mindset where you're at today isn't good enough. and I appreciate that in people because I'm goal driven just like you are. So Hall & Associates for a handful of years, had a little bit of a roll up into another staffing company, had a great run with that organization, was a co-founder, had a great exit.
Yes.
Sold that business in 2015. And took a little bit of time, started TalentCloud Staffing with my wife. She kind of handles our technology stack that we have within the organization. And
Julie,
right?
Julie,
absolutely.
Incredible woman.
The best woman ever.
Yes.
And I'm super fortunate that we reconnected. But a little bit back on that. So when it didn't work out, we both wished each other well. I put her picture in my Bible back in the day, and then moved to Tampa, relocated. And then 19 years later, we both found ourselves in separate states, divorced, hadn't talked in many years. And I got a Facebook message from her, and the timing was perfect. I've been single for probably about 3 or 4 months, dated around in Tampa for about a year, and just was taking a break. And, within a minute of, having a conversation, we kind of jumped right back into 1994, what we used to do, where we used to go, some of the things that we had a great time doing back in the day. And then we found pretty quickly that our morals, our values, how we wanted to raise the kids, what was important to us were in great alignment. And we dated long distance for 3 years. We got married and still were long distance. We built a great house, combined 4 kids, had a great blended family, did a great show with HGTV on the Blended Family Bunch, which was awesome with Marie McCormick. So that I think overall, my experience with Julie is it kind of goes back to the very beginning. You always try to do the right thing. You treat people well, treat people with respect. The timing always necessarily might not be what you want, but you never know down the road what may happen.
I love it, and I really appreciate you sharing that. It's interesting because people talk about balancing the personal and the professional, and really there's no balance. It's all about blending. Mm-hmm. And what I love so much, what I loved back in the day when I was just a scrappy little baby, was how much you loved your family. And I remember baby Mac. And I remember, baby Mac, because you started your business. She was little. Yeah,
she was about a year old back in the day, right?
So it's really interesting to me, the timing of launching your business, just having this baby, and then how your business grew and flourished as she was growing and as you were growing the family. And today she's just all the kids, right? Beautiful, accomplished, well-balanced, just wonderful little people. And when that's your goal, you know you're working with the right people.
It fills your heart with the right things.
Yes.
I think that's the most important. And I think the great thing with the journey that Julie and I have been on with the kids is they're all so different. And we get to share in those experiences with them. So we have one that... him and he just recently got married, Ben and Sydney.
Oh.
Great couple. They live in Southern Illinois. They manage and run a large outdoor nature preserve. Their wedding was absolutely gorgeous. It was in the middle of the woods. It was beautiful. It's something that I hadn't had experiences with. And so they're often starting their life, and Julie and I are lucky to get to share some of those experiences with them. Ashley's an entrepreneur. She started a dog treat company from spent grains.
Goodness.
She's doing great. She's getting married next year. Mac is a senior at USF, exercise science and nutrition. She's a server at Union in Tampa, making great connections here in the Tampa community. And
shout out to the cheesecake at Union.
Union is amazing. I mean, Jeff Gigante has done an amazing job with Next Level Brands and what he's been able to do with Fabrici and Boulan and Union. It's just a great experience. And I think when I was talking to Mackenzie back, a couple of years ago, well, about a year ago when she got this job, I'm like, if you're going to spend time in a job, work somewhere where you're going to meet the right types of people and get the right type of training, because that's going to help propel you in your career. It just can't be wasteful time earning a paycheck. Right. So she's doing great, graduates this summer. Yes. And then our youngest got into the University of Florida.
Is that Claire?
Yeah, Claire just graduated from Steinbrenner High School. University of Florida, she's one of 10 in the theater program, so she's going to be a BFA major, and I think she's going to get a minor in business. And she moves out in 2 weeks, so we'll be empty nesters.
Amazing.
And then figuring out what's 2.0 or 3.0.
Yes,
so
I love it.
Super excited.
So the people have just gotten a preview of what makes you so incredible. When you sit down to talk with someone, it's a full-bodied experience, right?
Absolutely.
It's the family. It's not just your family. It's what's going on in the other person's life. You take the time, you make that investment to get to know people. Mm-hmm. I think it's just inherent to who you are. But the benefit that is, I mean, it's a superpower essentially, because you're coming in because there's a need and you're coupling the technical need with what you can see in them of who they are.
Right.
But you skipped over a couple of things, and I want to make sure that we point these out because these are very important. So you went to college, UCF, yes, in Orlando?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did.
And then you sold your business in, I don't know, 2014, 2015?
2015.
Okay. Were you in any leadership programs here in Tampa?
I did. I went through Tampa Connection.
You did, yes.
Great experience. Highly recommend it. Great group of people. Learned a lot about what was going on in the Tampa community. Still stay in touch with a handful of people from the Tampa Connection group. And then after the Tampa Connection experience, I got involved in the CEO Council of Tampa.
Yes.
Earlier in the 2010 to 14 area, we were recognized by the Business Journal, Fast 50, Best Places to Work, Small Business of the Year finalist, and that kind of got me the opportunity to get into the CEO Council.
Amazing. And you chaired, was it last year? Yes.
I was chairman of the board for the CEO Council. It was a great experience. And I don't think that, so they asked a few years earlier, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. I had that imposter syndrome. So the CEO Council right now, I think currently sits at around 260 members, represent about 35 to 40 billion in economic impact for the Tampa community. Our members hire over 150,000 employees here in the Tampa community. Many of the members have had multiple companies, exits. It's just a great organization. And so I haven't had $100 million exits, $250 million exits, and $1 billion unicorn exits. And those are the people that are at your table. And I didn't think that I was ready. And my good friend Penny Parks and Hugh Campbell, some other great leaders, Ed Sasser here in the community said, hey, this is a great experience. You're going to do a great job. Just be yourself. That's the most important thing. And I had a great experience. It was a wonderful year. We added 32 new members. We donated $31,000 for local not-for-profits. We grew our membership to about 260. We launched a CEO Council app to give our members a better, member experience with RSVPing to events and having the opportunity to see photos from our previous events. Alyssa and Alyssa Rhodes, executive director, and then Dina Agliano, just do an amazing job with herding all the cats, as I like to say.
It is an incredible organization. Truly wonderful rooms to be in.
And you joined last year.
I did.
Congratulations.
Yes.
And you joined because we have a partnership with the Tampa Chamber of Commerce, where if you win Small Business of the Year, you get to skip the $3 million and 25 qualification criteria that we have in place for members. So super proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It was so good to see you join. I saw your application come through and I was like, oh my gosh. It's like full circle because I saw you as a staff accountant right out of USF. And now you were CFO of a previous company and you started, William Stanley, and you've just acquired a CPA firm, and you're doing all these big grown-up things. And I've known you for so long, and it's just so cool to see that. So congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. I love it. I will say I have aged pretty rapidly over the last few years, but every line has been worth it. Yep. It has been such an incredible ride. And the background that you just described, I think, is really important, laying that foundation. You've been able to affect such incredible change in our market because of the relationships that you've really cultivated and solidified over the years. This doesn't happen overnight, right? It's not 7-minute abs. This is a daily workout.
No. I think what put it all in perspective for me is a handful of years ago, I made the decision to get in shape.
I remember this.
Yeah.
It was right after you launched your business.
A few years after I launched my business. And I did Ironman.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the crazy thing with that is I didn't even know how to swim.
Stop it.
Didn't know how to swim.
We should have called Watermelon Swim.
I should have called. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
So it goes back to the whole entrepreneurial experience. There's a saying, or I think there was a picture, somebody's jumping off a cliff and they're figuring out how to unpack the parachute as they're falling. That's what you do as an entrepreneur. I didn't know how to swim, so I hired a swim coach. And I was in the pool at Berkeley Prep with Coach Connie, swimming with 5- and 6-year-olds.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
As a 38-year-old man. And I have my own lane. And she's like, swim a couple of laps for me. And I'm like, I don't know if I can even swim a full lap. And I struggled to get to a full lap. And she's like, all right, we're going to start working on drills. I'm like, okay. So for the next couple of months, all I did was drills. I learned how to breathe. I learned how to flip turn. I learned how to do all those kind of very basic entry-level skills in swim. And then I became a good swimmer. And I used to say I'm not a good swimmer. But every time you say that, it kind of takes you to a place where you don't believe in yourself. So I would always say to myself, I got swim practice today. I'm a great swimmer. I'm going to go out there and kick butt.
And his daughter, a competitive swimmer who's won all the things.
Yeah, she's done great. And that's how she got started in her swimming program is she was playing in the pool, splashing and, making a ruckus as like a 5 or 6 year old. And I'm learning how to swim. And the coach finally said one day, hey, you need to get on a board and start doing some work. You're distracting all my other kids. And she got into the swim program there. So I learned how to swim, and then with so many other things in life, like I didn't know how to cycle. I had an old mountain bike. My first race I did, everybody passed me. I did the run on the beach. It was a Fort DeSoto triathlon, and it was sugar sand, and I had flats on. So I'm running hard, and sand's flying everywhere, and I'm not moving very fast. And I'm like, all right, I have to figure this out. And so hired a triathlon coach, got involved in a running club, bought a super expensive bike.
Of course, yes.
Yes. And then I learned. And then I realized that this wasn't going to be a weekend warrior thing. It took me 2 years to get into shape, to go through that process. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. You have to tell yourself, hey, I'm not good at this. Who do I know? How can I get involved in the community? Who can I sit with and ask questions to? And how do I learn how to grow a business?
I love it.
And so 2 years later, I crossed the finish line, Ironman, Florida.
I remember this.
Can't ever take that away. That's just a great accomplishment, and super proud that I was able to do that.
And great example, I think, for your children. And then also, as you just said, the parallels that relate to the perseverance required for a business owner, for an entrepreneur. And I mentioned to you, really, we wanted to do this podcast because we both worked for large organizations that have the best of everything, right?
Absolutely.
A very high standard of excellence. And unfortunately, sometimes our smaller to mid-sized businesses don't realize the standard of excellence that they should be looking for in some of their partners. And partnership is key. If we don't have the right people around us, a lot of times we're not going to get to where we ultimately should be.
Right.
And so we wanted to have you on today to show really this is the gold standard. This is the level of partnership that you should expect from someone in this particular discipline. And so tickled to have you on, and then also tickled because I am very nerdy that your discipline primarily has been accounting and finance over the years.
Absolutely.
So why? Why accounting and finance? Why was that the focus?
Well, when I was at the large national staffing company, what I saw was if you worked and developed a portfolio of certain types of people, you could have quicker turnaround. So in the staffing industry, if you say yes to everything, you're not going to have as great a success in growing your business because you're going to have to start from scratch the search process every single time. So if you're partnering with a staffing firm and they specialize in everything, you're not going to always be getting the best of the best. So I decided to focus on the accounting and finance and a little bit on the technology, in the technology space. But in the accounting and finance space, I've worked with people for the last 20 plus years and worked with them as they've gone through their careers. And I have this incredible passive pipeline of talent.
Yes.
And when I get a phone call, hey, you placed me 6 years ago at this company. They just went out of business. What do you have? I mean, I just had a recent example of somebody calling me and saying that they got displaced, and I had a job for them the next day.
That's amazing.
Because I knew who they were. And when I made that phone call, I'm like, hey, I've worked with this person before. I've placed them. They were here for 6 years. They did this, they did that. Perfect fit for your organization. 2 interviews, and they're hired within a couple of days. That's what you're looking for from a partner standpoint. So I think collectively in my career, I've interviewed 40,000 plus people.
Stop it.
40,000 plus. I mean, I try to talk to 10 to 15 people every single day.
Okay.
And, I think there's a good home for everyone. And so there's the very cream of the crop, the people that have the public accounting,
sure,
Final Four, CPA firm experience, and then they've got a little bit of industry mix. That's the gold standard in the accounting and finance space.
They're writing their own checks.
Pretty much. If you work for the big national CPA firms and, you're at a manager level or a staff accountant level or even a senior, and you're ready to make that move, you basically can name your salary. Well, for the most part, like within reason. If you're a partner and you decide to venture out on your own, many of them will start their own firms, or they'll get into professional consulting and do very well. But that's the gold standard in the accounting and finance space. And then there's trickle down with everybody else.
I imagine that there has to be a tremendous amount of education that you provide to your partners.
Yes.
Because my experience oftentimes is people don't really know what the different functions do and what they should cost.
Right.
So a lot of times I'll get a call from someone, I need a CFO, I need a controller. And I'm like, oh, okay, tell me exactly what you're looking for.
Tell me more.
And and tell me how much you want to spend. And you ask some of those questions and you're like, okay, well, they actually need a full charge bookkeeper, or, this company needs a controller.
Right.
And so it's hard, I think, because there are so many different hats in the collection.
There are. So I get those calls weekly.
Sure.
Similar to you. Hey, I want to hire a CFO. And it sounds sexy.
It
Chief
does.
Financial Officer. And the first thing that I try to do is assess the organization. Like, where are they at in that growth curve standpoint? Are they owner-operator, kind of wearing all the hats, new, couple years old, not a formal structure? That is not a CFO type hire for that particular company. So ask the questions, try to figure out where they're coming from, and then explain. CFOs don't do payables. They do, but I mean, for the most part, you want your CFO focused on strategy.
Of course.
You want your CFO focused on leading a controller or multiple controllers and a finance division, and then accounting operations and reporting directly to leadership. And a typical CFO salary here in Tampa can range on the low end of $150,000 to $350,000 plus. And plus is going to be bonus, 20 to 50% bonus. And then even in certain situations, you're looking at equity as well, or profit share.
Always for that level. So in some cases,
Correct.
500 plus.
100%. Yes. And, tell me a little bit about your revenue. Tell me about the organization. Who currently is in your accounting and finance department? And when I hear, well, we have a bookkeeper that we've hired and they've been here since the very beginning, like, you might need an accounting manager, maybe even an accounting supervisor. And then the salary comes out, it's going to be about 80 to 100,000. Okay, so what you're going to get is 5 to 7 years, degreed accountant, which is super important in the accounting and finance space. And here's what you're going to be looking like with a potential hire. And then there's kind of a little bit of shock.
Yes.
So no, I wanted to hire a CFO. And I'm like, well, you're probably about 5 years away. But and I think one of the crucial hires within an organization is your financial leader.
Sure.
It's going to help you really supercharge and grow your company. I think the other big thing too is it allows the owner to focus on what the owner is going to be good at,
right?
Which is whatever business that they've gotten into, that's what they need to focus on. And then the accounting and finance needs to be handled with the right professional in place.
I love it. One of the things that I've seen persist as I moved throughout my career, a lot of times when I stepped into a new leadership role, what I would see is that we had an abundance of resources, but maybe they weren't the right resources because we had prided ourselves on paying in the bottom 5%,
Yeah.
And a lot of times we were able to rework the team to procure the right level of talent and keep dollars the same or less because technology has evolved pretty tremendously. And instead of teams of accounts payables people, we can use software. Right? And then repurpose those dollars for the thought-provoking work that technology isn't ready for just yet.
Right. Well, one of my favorite sayings is, what got you here isn't going to get you there.
Yes.
Favorite saying. And I have hard conversations with business owners because there's good in every person.
Of course.
And a lot of times companies outgrow their staff. So you've hired somebody, they've been with the company 5 years, they've been on the journey, and the skill set doesn't necessarily match where the company's at today. And they have a hard time letting that person go. And they've kind of reached their ceiling.
Yes.
They can't go back to school. They're going to be a staff accountant. They're going to be an accounting manager. They're not that next level person that's going to help supercharge the company and get them to the next step. And so those are hard conversations to have because a lot of times they don't want to let those people go. Sure. But that hinders the organization in growing and getting to the next step. So I hear you. Technology is definitely something that is helping automate a lot of the functions in the back office. Like you were saying, the typical accounts payable processor, matching, batching, coding, paper files. That's if you're if you're running the right organization, you've put software in place to be able to handle a lot of those things.
Yes. And truly, there is a place for everyone, I would say.
There is.
As you said, if you're green and growing, the type of person that you need is going to look a little bit differently than if you're more in a status quo situation. It's not just the technical expertise. It's also the personality, the pace at which they absorb information and manage chaos, as it were. Some of us love the chaos, and then other people, we need the same parking spot every day. Do you know?
Absolutely. And so I kind of distilled down my 3 best hiring practices. So these are like the 3 things that I look for, regardless of the industry. And so you kind of just touched on a couple of them. But first is the intellect and intellectual curiosity that a person has. I like smart people. I like people that ask questions, that challenge the status quo, thinkers. And so those are the types of people you want to bring into the organization, because they're always going to be looking at, how do we make this better? How can we be more efficient? And they're thinking. The next is going to be the grit and the grind. And I like people that have the work ethic.
Yes.
It's hard. It's hard. If you're going to get better, you have to go through some pain and a little bit of suffering. And that makes you better. So I like people that, from a candidate standpoint, kind of what you did mid-career, you went back to school, got your 5th year, and got your CPA.
Yes.
You know how rare that is? So I speak to the kids at UT and USF, and one of the things that I say is, hey, if you're in the program, stay for that 5th year, get it done. You don't have to take the CPA immediately, but I would recommend it. Go through the study process, take the review courses, and then do it, because you're kind of in that mindset. Once you get into your career, then it's going to be work, then entertaining, in the evenings and hanging out. And you're just not going to have time to go through that process. But you, with your 2 babies and, a hard corporate job, you were resilient, and you went back and got your CPA, which is great. So the grit and the grind is super important. And then the next thing is what I call personality and communication. So when somebody comes into a room, what kind of energy do they bring with them? And what we touched on earlier was the NAP, the no asshole policy.
I was waiting for this.
It's my favorite, because I think, so Jason Light from the Bucks, when they were talking about why is your organization so great, he said, hey, we have a no asshole policy. And I cheered. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my same policy for hiring people. And that's exactly right. One bad person can kill an entire company and the culture. So first, no asshole policy. But when you're looking at an individual, how do they communicate? How are other people going to perceive this person? How are they going to be able to build bridges? How are they going to collaborate and be a good team member? So it all kind of boils down to the personality and communication and energy somebody brings into the room. So I applied those 3 principles regardless of skill set and job title and industry and everything else. And that kind of is those are 3 key things that I look for in hiring.
And did you develop that on your own throughout the years?
Yeah, it's just kind of what I've distilled down to. These are like the most important things that all employers need to be looking for. And all cultures are different too.
Well,
so and one other point I want to make too.
Yes.
I think a lot of people want to hire people they like,
yes,
as opposed to hiring the right person for the job. So the most important thing is developing a good job description, making sure it accurately reflects what you need accomplished, and then hiring for that. And then if you like the person on top of it, that's the extra bonus.
You're so right. At a certain level, when you're talking about the key finance leader within the organization, at a certain level, certain price point, the expertise is a given, right? Mm-hmm. The education, the pedigree, all of that. Then chemistry is really important, which sounds weird. People are like, what do you mean chemistry? I'm like, you have to vibe. My most successful CEOs, we work very well together because our personalities are complementary. Mm-hmm. But there's also a type that I don't do well with at all. It's like, oh, but I have a friend for you. Hang on, let me give him a call.
100%. Yeah, and it's good you recognize that too.
Of course.
Because sometimes people try to force that. And then there's conflict. And then it's almost like a bad marriage, you know? Then you spend time. Well, and it's a distraction from the business at hand.
It is.
And so the last thing you want is to be in what I call professional couples counseling.
Of course.
Try to figure out how to get along.
No, there's no need. There are real problems to work through, and that shouldn't be one of them.
Right, and that's a distraction.
I have to go back to the no asshole policy, though. I love this, and I have to imagine that you really enjoy the autonomy that comes with owning your own business because you're able to establish a policy like that versus sometimes when you're working in a corporate world, all business is good business, right? We're looking to drive that top line, and so
100%.
we'll put up with, whatever it was that we otherwise might not. So I love that you've taken that firm stance. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, and what I found is I want to grow. I don't want to run in place. And so kind of back to the no asshole policy. If you force a placement, you're going to have to replace. And it might be in 6 months, it might be a year, but that person isn't going to work out. And kind of back to if you're working for a big company, you have to make those placements in order to drive top line revenue. The no asshole policy for what we do is, hey, this isn't the right place for you. I don't feel obligated to try to get a placement. I want to make a right fit. The best thing is putting somebody to work and not having to go back and replace them in a month or 2 months or in 2 weeks. It still happens, but
Rarely.
Rarely, correct.
I think it's a level of enlightenment too, right? Because when you're new in your career, you're looking to make a name for yourself, and usually you can do that through metrics. When you get to a certain point where you're not really introducing yourself when you walk in the room anymore, people just know who you are. The game changes a bit, right?
It does, and it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And so we were in an airport one time, and I think it was Charlotte, and I was with my daughter and ran into some people we knew. And she's like, you know everybody. Everywhere we go, you run into somebody you know. And I'm like, exactly. So when you're moving around Tampa doing your thing,
keep that in mind.
Know that people I know you and will give me a call. And it's not meant in a bad way, but I've worked really hard to try to treat everybody with respect. There's a good home for everyone. I might not be able to help you today, but I want you to have a good experience with us and our firm. So one of the things that I learned early on in the staffing industry is it's a full circle business. Yes. You're a candidate today, tomorrow you're a hiring manager, and then you're a candidate again. And I've had the privilege of placing many people multiple times throughout their careers. And kind of similar to you, I mean, a lot of them are now CFOs, CIOs, CEOs of companies. And I'm like, remember when back in the early 2000s or the 2012 or whatever year, we were working together and you were here, super proud of you. Congratulations.
It's amazing.
So it's very cool to see that. I feel like a dad to a lot of these people.
Well, that's what you said when I bumped into you at CEO Council. You said, I feel like the baby's all grown up.
I know.
And it's interesting because I feel the same way in a different vein. I bumped into Baby Mac at Union. I was like, I'm sorry, what was your name again? I was like, I know your dad. I just had coffee with him, last weekend when we had met at, I want to say Latte Vino.
Yep.
So yes, it is a small world. And, I've had to source to replace myself multiple times. And a lot of times I will see folks come through that I've worked with at some stage in my career because it's a small town vibe, right? Really, you know everybody when you work in this space.
Right. And so what I realized, I think I know everyone, but I don't.
Right.
I don't know everyone.
There's always a surprise.
Right. And I might have a bad call with somebody or a bad experience. And I always remind myself, hey, I can't take that energy into the next conversation or the next meeting. So water off a duck's back.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, no asshole policy.
But you also take it very seriously. And I think that that's the thing, right? This is intertwined between your professional and your personal. You get a level of fulfillment out of doing the right thing and making that right placement. You're completing a family, essentially. And that's something that is central to who you are and to your belief in your value system. So I totally get it. There's nothing you're doing lightheartedly. You're doing it all in, or why do it at all? So you are very relationship centric, right? This is 11 years of therapy coming out. You are all in on the relationship. You get to know the people, you ask the right questions, and you do the right thing. And I think that that's why you are the gold standard.
Thank you.
Because it's not
Appreciate
about,
that.
right? Like, of course, it's thank you for being you. It's not about that placement and that dollar if it's not going to work out. It is waiting and finding that right fit, that right employer, that right candidate. We do have quite a few agencies out and about, right? If you're looking for someone, there are lots of different options. And so we're saying, hey, here's the gold standard. Here are the things that you really want to be looking for in a partner. Are there any red or yellow flags that folks should look out for? If they're feeling something a little strange, they don't feel like maybe they're getting what it is that we're talking about, things that they could look at a box and say, yes, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I think that kind of you touched on it earlier. There's the whole, like somebody getting brand new into the industry, there's going to be some ramp up time. They're not going to know everything there is to know about hiring, org charts and job descriptions, and most importantly, the people part. So if you're looking for a firm, you want to be looking for a firm specializes in the accounting and finance space if you're hiring that type of person. And then your recruiter or salesperson needs to have experience in the community, 5 to 10 years, just roughly. And then you're going to know that they're going to have a good passive pipeline of people. There's so many people that I have in my back pocket that aren't necessarily happy where they're at. Sure. And if I get this type of opportunity that comes up in this particular industry or space, in this particular salary range, they'd be interested in getting a phone call to hear more about it. And you're not going to see those people when you run a job ad, especially at that controller and CFO level.
Yes.
So we're able to procure those types of people pretty quickly when we get those types of opportunities. And if you're an outside employer, you're going to be looking for somebody that's going to have those types of relationships.
I think those are great insights and recommendations. I think working with a recruiter that really understands the accounting and finance positions and also takes the time to get to know your company. I know for me, one frustration that I had often in the past when I was hiring, and because I was on the move, right, and we were restructuring, I got to do a lot of hiring. I tended to see the candidate that you just described earlier in our conversation, the big four, the this, the that, and it was like, oh, no, I get that that's sexy, but I need a grinder.
Right.
I need a no CPA. I need a, 7 years of full cycle multi-entity. And it felt sometimes like there was just a button and, a blast of resumes. Whereas when you're busy, you don't have time to look through 50 resumes, right? I need you to cull it down to really the right candidates and let me choose between 3 or 5.
Well, a lot of that comes back to the intake experience that you're getting. So let's talk about the job description. Let's talk about the culture. Where's the organization going? Like really understanding all those things. And kind of back to your point, a 7-year grinder, that's like a very hot commodity here in the Tampa area.
Oh, yes.
A staff accountant with a degree from a good university that's got maybe 2 or 3 jobs in the past 7 years. I mean, that's a high demand skill set. And it's the right person for what you need at that particular point in time. And so you want your firm that you're working with to understand that and provide those types of people. And kind of the other thing that you mentioned too is we are definitely not a resume shop. You'll get 2 or 3 people. And I've run into many situations where we'll submit 2 or 3 people and they'll hire 2.
Oh my gosh.
They're both the right candidate. And so I think that's another thing from an organization standpoint. If you see good talent, you have to figure out a way in which you can hire those people. Yes. And the organizations that are successful and they grow and get to those next steps, they have that type of mentality because good talent is always hard to find.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I do see that happen quite a bit because there's so much fluidity when a company is growing. You can often adjust those positions to make something work.
Absolutely. Yep.
I love it. And then also you're saying when you're too new, you might not have that network of candidates to go through to.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, everyone has to start somewhere.
Of course.
And so if you get somebody that's asking the right questions and you feel like that they're earnest and authentic and, they're saying the right things, I mean, you got to give people experience.
Of course, yes.
So, I mean, I don't want to say don't ever work with somebody, but and I would say that would be more for your mid to entry-level accounting professionals.
Of course.
It's hard for a 25-year-old to place a CFO with 25 years of experience.
Absolutely.
That's taken companies public, that has had multiple exits, that's secured billions of dollars in financing. It's just they don't have those experiences just yet.
Well, I think time in the seat is a real thing, right?
It is.
You can watch
the reps, the repetitions.
Yes, and also each car shifts differently. I grew up on a stick. What did I have? Like an '87 Pontiac Fiero. Woo! It ran half the time. The other half the time it was behind a AAA tow truck.
Right.
And then I moved to an Acura Integra, and the shifting was completely different.
Right.
So it's not just how long you've driven, but you have to sit in a couple different cars and feel that shifter, right? It's completely different from one to the next. So there's definitely there's a path. We see it all the time for, our accountants, right?
Right.
Sometimes we want someone less experienced. Sometimes we need someone who's been in the seat for a number of years. We need that knowledge and wisdom.
Absolutely. Yep.
So tell me about a success story that you've had in your career with maybe a candidate.
Yeah. So back to the place people right out of school.
Yeah.
I get the next call a few years later. Hey, I was here. I'm ready for the next step. Place them into a leadership role. Hey, I just got my MBA, my CPA. Help them get to their next role, and then placing them as a CFO. I've had multiple of those here in this community, and it's great to run into them like socially, and hugs and great to see you. Congratulations, and I'm so proud of you. And I just the money's great, but I feel fulfilled. And my team feels fulfilled. And I remind people all the time, our staff, team members, that we're doing a very important service for somebody. We're literally changing their lives and their careers. And so we need to handle everybody with dignity and respect. We're taking somebody out of a situation where maybe they're not working, or they're working for somebody where they're not getting fulfillment or getting to the next step, and we're putting them in a better situation. Yes. And that's why we do what we do.
I love it. So it's very purpose-driven.
Very purpose-driven.
Heart-forward. You genuinely love what you do.
I love people. Yeah. Everybody's so different. And I think that it's also helped me too with humans in general. Mm-hmm. There's goodness in everybody. And, as a staffing firm interviewing lots of people, it's our job to extract that and find it. Everyone has their story, and everyone wants to share their story and talk about their story. And I want to hear all that, and our team wants to hear all of that, so we can help manage the message. Because a lot of times you have one conversation with a candidate, and then before they go and interview, there's a lot of coaching that goes into, hey, you wouldn't say this, wouldn't talk about that. Here's a better way in which to answer this question. We help prepare people for that process.
I love it. I think coaching is such an integral part of the process. And I think we talked about this before. When you're golfing, you can have 3 different coaches. Your caddy's a coach, and then you can have a swing and a putt, right?
Right.
So yes, of course, when you're talking about something like this, you do need a bit of counseling to ensure that you're well-rounded and that you're prepared.
Right. You don't look for a job every day.
No.
And so a lot of people just aren't aware of what employers are asking, what kind of questions, what an interview process looks like, what follow-up looks like. Follow-up is critical. AI is taking over our industry right now. There's a big thing going on is the AI chat interview. So you get a phone call with a chat bot, and it will conduct your interview as a pre-screen. And it'll ask you questions, and you answer the questions, and then it will forward something on to a recruiter, a script, or transcript of what the interview was and a recommendation on moving forward. So how do you prepare for that? And that's what we do on our end is we hear some questions to be prepared for, a little bit more about the organization. And the way that I look at it is when you go in and you're prepared, you're going to project better.
Absolutely.
If you shotgun, hey, I've got an interview today, and you show up just a couple minutes before, or you get there right on time, which you're late if you're right on time, especially for an interview.
Sure.
You're not going to project as well. So being prepared, going through a process, getting a little bit of coaching helps you do a little bit better, have a better showing. Yes. And again, it goes back to that experience. If they had a good experience with us, then they'll use us as a firm to hire from. And then when they're ready for that next step, they'll be back in 3-5 years with the younger generation, maybe 18 months,
yes.
maybe 9 months, and but it's the overall experience.
I love it. And it's interesting because so much has changed, I would say, in such a short period of time. And the technology that's coming in, I think, absolutely fantastic. We do have to learn how to embrace it and how to leverage it. But also we have to remember that human touch and connection, because that is not changing. We can automate tasks, but we still need to nurture those relationships and make sure that we're moving people along in the right way. But I have to say, one of the biggest changes that I've seen over the years, and I am here for it, so here for it, is how candidates today are really interviewing the companies. Do you remember back in the day, we were just happy to get a job. We're like, oh, a job, that's great. Oh, and you're going to pay me money, US dollars, even better.
Right.
But now the balance has shifted a bit, and folks realize, wait a second, there are multiple opportunities. I need to make sure that I'm performing diligence, so I'm selecting the opportunity that's right for me. And I think that's been a big change over the last decade, maybe, for some employers to really get their arms around.
I know. It really has been. And as you're growing your career and you're making those decisions, you have to be very purposeful on what's that next step look like. So there's a lot of, we talk to a lot of people about career planning, like how long do you want to be here? How long should you be in this role? What does that next role look like? What are you doing to get to that next step? And that, I would say that would be for a majority of people. And then you have your full charge bookkeepers that will be a bookkeeper their entire life, or payables, receivables. Certain jobs they'll always be in that type of a role. But there's planning that goes into it. And then with all the different companies that are out there, you can get on the internet, Glassdoor, there's LinkedIn, there's all kinds of tools out there that will help you learn a little bit more about the organizations that you're thinking about being a part of. And that's super important.
Yes,
you want to go somewhere where you're being challenged. And, it can be a great company if you have a bad leader. That's, the kiss of death. You definitely need to move on from that. You can work at a bad company and have a great leader, and you could stay there for years because you're getting good experience and you're working for a great person. And that's important as well.
Yes,
so
I agree.
Super tools there's great tools out there now that help candidates make better decisions.
Yes, absolutely. Remember, you have a choice.
100%.
Is there anything that you wanted to share that we haven't already covered?
There's a thing that's come up lately, I'd say in the last year with AI. So we'll get resumes, and within a couple of seconds, we can tell that it was a chat-generated resume.
Stop. So is it a zhuzhed up of a real person, or is it just completely fictitious?
I like the word zhuzhed up. Zhuzhed up. Is that French? I love it.
I'm not sure.
No, so what will happen is somebody will see a job description and say, hey, here's my resume. Make the resume with a command prompt. Make this resume speak to this particular job. And then the chat engine will go and look at the job description and then optimize the resume to make it look like they're the perfect candidate. So when we're getting in there and doing interviews, there's more due diligence that we have to do on our end, because there's a certain way in which the chat script writes the resume.
Yes.
And you can tell pretty quickly. Now, it's a great tool. We use chat to write job descriptions, help prepare for interview questions, optimize resumes, executive summaries, intro letters, all those different things. But you have to put your own voice to the chat scripts that you get back. So I would say if you're preparing your resume, make sure that it doesn't read like it's a chat GPT resume.
It feels like it would be a disservice if we just moved forward with that, right? Because it's not truly representative of that candidate.
It is not in their skill set. And so when you're looking at it, and especially with experience, we'll look through a resume and say, that doesn't just necessarily jive with what your background says and the types of companies you've worked at. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Oh yeah, chat did the resume for me.
We could tell, yes.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
So to me, it sounds like do the work, right? Don't take the shortcuts. Definitely, you can judge a bit. Make sure that you remove those M dashes though, because that's a dead giveaway, right? But you want to be honest and representative about who you are, and use the technology as maybe the finishing touch.
Well, it's the base. So you start with that. And then you're like, okay, let me put my voice to it and my experiences and make sure that it's authentic. Because then you'll get through that process. And then the hiring manager is going to look at your resume and then ask you questions. And
you can't speak to it.
You can't talk to it because you don't have those experiences. It's judged up.
Yes.
So that's just, So that would be a big thing that we advise people on a regular basis.
So be thoughtful.
Use it as a starting point, but finish it up in your own voice.
I think that's excellent advice and very, very timely. And I feel like all 13 of our Spotify subscribers are going to be dying to speak with you. Yes. So tell me, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
So I got lucky early back in the day when technology was coming out, at Todd K. Hall, which is my name. So on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and then it's Todd.Hall at TalentCloud Staffing.
Perfect. Yes. And you're
That's where the fun-
quite the man on the LinkedIn from what I could see. A staggering number of connections.
11,000. I don't know. And the thing with my LinkedIn profile too is I don't connect with everybody.
Of course.
I connect with people that I actually have connections with.
Yes.
Which I know is probably not the right thing to say in today's social media world. Like you want millions of connections, but my LinkedIn profile is a little bit more thoughtful, and I actually know most of the people that are on there.
It's the perfect embodiment of who you are.
Yeah,
yes,
thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for carving time out of your busy schedule on this rainy day. Notice how good his hair looks, but look at me. I'm like a puffball.
You are not.
Thank you.
It's good hair clay. That's what it is.
Well, I'll get some of that very, very soon. Thank you so much for coming and spending this time with us. And thank you all for tuning in to Talk Nerdy to Me, Season 2, Episode 2. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great day.